Hey, 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 this is Mary at Mary Unapologetic, and my co host today is Maria Callenbach. She's, well, I was going to say she's not only a good friend of mine, but also she's a beautiful green eyed woman.
Oh my, Mary, thank you. Wow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, okay, so did you hear the intro? We were just talking about it
I
earlier.
sure did. I sure did. I like your intro.
I
Mhm.
know. You know that music can change your mood depending if it's upbeat, if it's a sad music. We were talking about that earlier. I mean, I like country
Yes.
music, but
Hmm.
sometimes the country music, the lyrics, because I listen to lyrics all the time. It's
Hmm.
like either somebody died or somebody has a broken heart
I
or
know.
yeah, or someone can't get over someone, or somebody left someone, you know what I mean? So it's just
Yes.
sad. So I pick and choose what country music I listen to.
Very wise, Mary. Yes. I'm with you. I like all kinds of music, but I have to just be in the mood for it. I have to kind of go with what I want. And I don't like the sad stuff. No.
I don't either, because when
Mm-mm.
you listen to a lot of sad music or songs, it just changes your mood. It kind of is like,
Hmm.
I feel like it's dragging my energy down, instead of
Hmm.
a positive and upbeat, it's just like the negative vibe. And I don't like the negative vibe
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, I believe it affects you for sure. Mhm.
Uh-huh. Yep. Well, folks, this is episode 65, and our topic for today is um conscious choosing to make conscious decision, right?
Mhm.
Versus just making decision. So
Mhm.
the only reason why I want to talk about it today, folks, is because I've been seeing it on social media posts that a lot of people just like basically post what they think, and they really don't think about whether it's going to hurt someone, or whether it's going to offend someone, or whether it's disrespectful towards others, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or whether it's going to be a positive, it's going to contribute positively or negatively. These are the stuff that I pay attention when I post stuff out there, because I don't want people to think that I'm such a drag, I'm always negative. So I always
Mhm.
just put something positive to empower people, especially the women. I mean, think
Mhm.
about it. I have a mother, I have a sister, um, I have a grandma. So obviously, women haven't really, I mean, I've heard it, I guess, so many times that somehow, and you can correct me, Maria, if I'm not saying it correctly. Somehow women can be catty with each other rather than empowering each other. They can be catty with each other. So I
Mhm.
tend to do the opposite, which is, I
Mhm.
if this is what I'm noticing, then I'm going to go do the opposite, because I
Yeah.
want to put what's good out there, because
Yeah.
I want my legacy to be like, or I want to be remembered like, I remember Mary, she made me feel this way, she made me feel happy and empowered. That's the
Mhm.
vibe that I want to put out there, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. And you are, Mary. You are so much like that. You
hold
are.
on, sorry, that was my phone going like beep beep beep. Sorry.
No
Sorry,
worries.
Maria, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I was just going to say you are like that. You are very positive and empowering, and we all need that. Um, yeah, I think that's the I think a strong woman will do that. She wants to lift others up around her. She's not, I think when you see people being catty, like you said, or
Hmm.
tearing people down, it's because they want to be seen as higher, bigger, or
Hmm.
they want to make people small so that it lifts them up.
Hmm.
And I don't know. Yeah, we should really
That's
be doing the opposite.
Yeah, I think that really, if you think about it, and psychology wise, I think that has something to do with being insecure, right? When someone is insecure, they tend to hide it because they don't want people to read them and
Hmm.
notice that they have insecurity. So they tend to do the opposite, and they do this bizarre,
Hmm.
mean, you know, I
Yeah.
don't know, behavior.
Hmm.
So Another thing that I wanted to point out is that um, early on, I'm going to share with you guys. I mean, even with you, Maria, that early on when I was younger, obviously, I'm very old now. I'm in my 50s, but early on, I decided that because I noticed this, I did some, self reflection, and then I noticed that what, I don't want to just make choices or decisions in my life just because for the sake of making good choices. I want to actually put some thought into it, the pros and cons. I want to
Mhm,
make sure that I want to, make good decisions according to my morals and my values and what's ethical out there. So that way I don't regret any decisions that I make in life, right? And
mhm,
then also, I don't want people to think that, hey, you did that wrong and that wasn't right. And and if I allow them or give them room to think like that of me, then I wouldn't be able to defend me, because you can't defend the indefensible if you did something wrong and then
mm.
you got called out on it. So that's why
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that's why I always make conscious decision. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you guys also an example later on. Even when making I guess when I'm helping my son make choices as far as going to going to universities, like what school he should go
Mhm,
to.
mhm,
Obviously he's a swimmer, so we have to
mm,
incorporate that with our decision making. I had to like sit down with him. We sat down, we talked about it, we looked at our pros and cons, and then
mm.
we also figure out we need to make sure that there's always like an exit plan. But
Yes.
before we move on, I want to define what making conscious decision is, or making conscious choices. And I pulled it up actually. It said that um choosing consciously, making conscious decision is basically choosing what is morally and ethically right based on one's conscience. I hope I pronounced that right.
Mhm.
Sorry.
You did, yes.
Okay. So when I read that definition, I'm already sold, because I can relate. As soon as it said something about morally and ethically, I'm sold.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
I think you feel the same way too, right, Maria?
I do. I do, and, I think when you were saying when you were younger, you sat down and thought about, you reflected. I think that's the key thing there. I think that you've gotta start somewhere, and for me, my decisions, like, I really consider myself a Bible student, and so I go to that as my source, and I read it, and I see, okay, I think it's important. I think God thinks this is important, so I want to be this way. And so I've already taken the time to consider a lot of things that go on in this world, and I've already made the decision what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I don't have to think about it. I already did. I already know my position on this. I already know what my conscience, now I have that as the basis. Now I'm going to do what I believe is right. And if I choose to do otherwise, it goes against my conscience. And um, then if I'm called out on it, then I'm going to be like, well, I should have known better. I went against what I believe is right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you have to start with some standard. And for me, it's I try to always look at what the Bible says, because that's where God, who made all of us, that's where he made the world. He knows how it's supposed to run. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, so I need to, stay within this realm here,
Mm-hmm.
and I've made my decision on certain things that I feel, he talks about. And then, yeah, and then it's my job to uphold what I already decided to do ahead of time. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to worry about what am I going to do about this. I've already decided,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not going to be, telling lies to sell tools. I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to, you know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
going to share the good things, but you're also going to be, you're going to just, you know, what's the word? You're going to,
Well, you're following, I mean, I get you. You're following like some kind of
it's a
guidance that you
standard. Yeah. It's my standard. And I
uh-huh.
know people have different standards, but that's my standard. And so as long as I don't,
Do
uh,
anyone harm.
yeah, on that, yeah,
Uh-huh.
then I'm okay. Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah, I think here's the thing. We have, I think on this earth, because I've met a lot of people in my life, I mean, I've
yeah,
lived in two countries, so I can compare, the cultures
yeah,
in the Philippines that they
yes,
have there, and then
hmm,
our culture here. I was able to um, compare and differentiate between
yes,
the two and which one I like and which one I don't like. So for me,
hmm,
I usually pick what's good in that culture and make
hmm,
it my own. And same
yeah,
thing over here. Because
yeah,
not everything that we learn or we read or we're exposed to is good, right? So not everything is good.
yeah,
So I only
yes,
pick and choose what I want and make it my own.
yeah. You've had the advantage of two different perspectives,
Hmm?
and so you can see things from both sides, and then marry the things that are the best. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what makes me who I am today. And the fact that, I'm a very inquisitive person, Maria. That's why probably sometimes I ask a lot of questions.
That's
I
good.
ask a lot of questions, and then if I'm not convinced, then I would ask more questions. That's why
Yes.
sometimes Mike would be like, "Mary, you should have been a prosecutor," because
Hey, that's good when it becomes when you're a mom. It's good to ask a lot of questions, right?
yeah, yeah. So he would joke around with me. I mean, if you guys hang out with us, me and my husband, it's like funny, but then in a way you would question yourself, are these two people real? I mean, do they like each other because the way they talk to each other? But we do. It's just that's how we like, we don't take things to the heart. But
Yeah.
as long as he doesn't disrespect me, and I know when he, you know, step out of boundaries and like, then I will let him know right away. And
Hmm.
whether he likes to hear it or not, I'll say it
Hmm.
because for the most part, nobody wants to hear it, right? But you have to
Well,
communicate it.
yeah, that's communication with the marriage, right? That's
Yeah.
important there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 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 the reason why I actually want to discuss this also is I see it, and well, I see it all the time, and I find that most people, Maria, when they make decisions, they really thinks that they're making good decisions, but then later on, they're like, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, or that's not what I wanted to do. That's why I think that promoting or creating awareness by talking about it in this episode about
Hmm.
making conscious decision is very
Hmm.
important, because for me, I think the reason why, this is in my opinion, the reason why I'm productive the way I am, and then I have very, very little regrets when it comes to my decision making, is because I really put some thought into it, you know,
Yes. Hmm.
and 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 if you folks are wondering why I am like that, I think it has probably something to do with my mom. I shared you, remember the story about my mom? My mom
Yes.
always told me when I was a little girl that if you're going to make a decision, make sure you think about it 10 times. Because once you make a decision and it's not the right decision, then the regrets is always in the end. So that
Mm-hmm.
just kind of got stuck in my head, that I'm like, okay, I gotta like think about it then 10 times. But then sometimes it's like more than 10 times. Then I think I think when I was younger, it got to a point where I would list, like write it on a piece of paper so I can see
Yeah.
it, like pros
Yes.
and cons.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean,
Uh,
you're really, by the time you've made your decision, I'm sure you feel very confident
mhm.
about it. And I don't know if you're like me, but one of the things that I do is I think, if I choose this, what is the worst thing that can happen as a result?
Mhm.
I want to know the worst case scenario. And then I'll do it on the other side. What is the worst thing that can happen? And that kind of helps me, can I handle if that's the worst case scenario? And if it's like, no, I cannot handle that, then I know I don't want to do that. Um,
Mhm.
so that kind of helps me.
Mhm.
Um,
That's that's good, Maria. So you're aware
yeah.
consciously, and that's why
Hmm.
you're doing this,
Hmm.
You're basically like trying to figure out which choices would be better for you and whether you
Yeah.
can handle it.
Yeah.
And I think long time ago, probably a few years back, we had a conversation, and I think it was about your I guess I would the adversity that you went through,
Oh yeah. The accident.
the
Yes.
accident,
Yeah. Hmm.
whether you can like talk about it,
Yes.
and just to get it out of your mouth. It was so hard even to
Yes.
tell the story, but then later on, I think you found out with the baby steps that the more you talk about it, the more
Hmm.
easier for you
Yes.
to tell the story, right?
Yes, and it was very healing to do that. So what was hard has become something that has helped me to heal.
Mhm.
And then I have since been asked to come and speak at the high school,
Mhm.
to talk about self-image
Mhm.
to homeschoolers and different people have asked me to come and share my story. And it all helped, but it's like you have to start somewhere, and it
Mhm.
started with you, Mary. I'll always be so grateful to you for that, because it's like I thought, what if I break down and cry and
Mhm.
I can't pull it together? You think about that, and I'm like, and then I realized, that is what, you know, this your episode was about handling adversity.
Mhm.
And I feel like I'm a very authentic person. And if someone sees me cry, that's just part of it. I mean,
Mhm.
there are days that are good, and there are times when it's hard to get the words out. So I
Mhm.
was okay with that. I decided I was going to do that, and I, just kind of, talked it over. I saw my counselor, talked with my counselor, and you know, and you're in a different place. I'm in a
Mhm.
different place now.
Mhm.
And so,
I've seen how you've grown, and I think the reason why I brought it up, and I was trying to find the right word, but I'm like, what's the right word here? Oh, I'll just say it, adversity. But
yes.
I
Yeah.
was trying to find the right word, but to to kind of like explain it. But
Right.
I think you've come a long way, Maria, and the things that you have done. It's like for me, from when I first interviewed you to now, and the stuff that you accomplished within like what? It's been like what, 3, 4 years?
3 years. 3 years.
3 years, okay.
Mhm.
That, because before in the beginning, you're really like reluctant to speak about it, or to without like getting emotional, right? But
Yes.
then now you can speak about it, and
Yeah.
you can control your emotion. That
Hmm.
right there, I think, is making conscious decision and saying, now I'm stronger inside,
Yeah.
and now I can speak more about it without, like crying, or
Absolutely.
without, yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I tell myself, one of my affirmations is, I do hard things. It's become something that, like, or another one is, I've gotten comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know,
Yay, I
I'm
like that.
doing, yeah, yeah.
I
It's
like
like
that.
the more I do things that are hard, the more empowering
Makes
the more empowered I become,
mhm,
because then I'm no longer paralyzed by the fear.
mhm,
I just embrace it, and everyone around me knows that's hard. So no
mhm,
one's expecting me to have it all together. You
mhm.
know, no one is expecting you to know everything.
Yes.
And, we're going to make mistakes, as we make decisions. But if you're doing something and you've thought about it, like I thought, I need to share my story.
Mhm.
that is something I should do. In fact, I had made the decision if anybody asks me, that was my word for the year after my accident. My accident was in 2019. In 20,
Mhm.
in January, I said, my word for the year is going to be share. And when someone asks me, I'm going to share what happened to me.
Mhm.
And then you ask me, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to share. I'm going to have to share this. And, it was not only good for me, it's good for other people. And I
Mhm.
think I think when you make decisions, Mary, and it goes back to what you said a while ago, are you helping other people? Like, are your words, the things you say, are they helping people or are they hurting people? And
Mhm.
if you are hurting people, then you don't have, for me, that goes against my conscience because
Mhm.
the Bible says to love everyone,
Mhm.
everyone,
Mhm.
even people that I don't understand.
Mhm.
I don't know why they do what they do. I still need to love them. And if it's not, then I just should keep my mouth shut.
Mhm.
So,
See, you and I, Maria, are on the same page on this. I
mm,
I'm a Catholic, but I'm not one of those people that's like hardcore, because I like to be balanced. I like to be centered all the time. I don't want to be too much to the right and too much to the left. Even when I make my decision, and on anything, I like to be balanced. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So when you said that we are supposed to love everyone,
mhm,
I know there are people out there that that we would consider, or even you would consider that, hey, this person or these people are not nice to me.
mhm.
For those people, I understand that I just need to stay away. I mean, I don't have an
Right.
opinion about them. I would just stay away. And if somehow they keep attacking, and then they just probably press that button that will like switch me to the
Yeah,
another person that
yeah,
it's hidden inside me, then I would
right.
be like, okay,
Mhm,
you,
mhm,
I've given this enough energy to not say anything and to be understanding. But if someone's gonna poke and poke and poke, well, don't poke the bear because the bear's gonna react. That's you know that's just me. But
mhm,
also the thing that I like about what you said is that there's a lot of people out there that they go to church every Sunday or sometimes twice a week. Then after they're done with church, they do bad things. And I
mm,
don't agree with that, because if you're going to go to church and if you say that you believe in God's word and you practice it, then do good things. Don't do
mhm,
bad things to other people, regardless whether you like the person or not. You know what I mean? Because it's
mhm.
being hypocritical.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, that is true. I mean, I don't think that pleases God either, right? Where you're inside the building, you're one way and you're different on the other. One of the things that reminds me of a funeral I went to is my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
She died at age 34. And
Wow.
everybody, she had this, I mean, so many different kinds of friends and people, like people that weren't anything at all like me, and
Mm-hmm.
just a big mixture of people.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody got up and told stories. And what we all realized is that my cousin Julie was the same, no matter who she was with,
Mm-hmm.
family,
Mm-hmm.
her friends, her coworkers. She was the same all the way across. She was authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the way we need
Seth,
to be,
that
you
that
know?
that's said a lot about her,
Yes,
that
it
she's a
did.
good person.
Yeah, it really did. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, I thought I was special because you know, and I'm like, and I was special, but I'm just saying she was that kind and gave that attention, that level of attention and love and kindness to everyone around her.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was so inspired by that. And these people, I didn't even know them.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them I didn't even know. And yet she was the same. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, Um, yeah, I agree with what you
I
say.
think
It's
I think
important
yeah,
to
I think
be,
what you're thinking is that you met a lot of different kind of people out there that your cousin had in her life, and they
yeah,
all spoke of the same thing about her. So
yeah.
what that
It
means is
was the
that she's
same.
always been consistent with her being
Yes.
authentic and probably kindness, because if they spoke good about her, that means she was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
good of a
And you know,
person.
it reminds me of that saying. One of the sayings that I love is kind people are my kind of people. And that's how I feel. I feel
Uh-huh.
like, and just what you were saying earlier, I like to be around people that are kind and uplifting. We're all going to lift each other up.
Mhm.
And if you're around people that are always tearing you down, then, you get to choose who you're surrounding yourself with.
Yes.
And if people, when I was younger, like in my 20s, um, well, my teens and 20s, I didn't make the best choices for who to date.
Mhm.
And it was almost like we were always fighting, and there was all this level of, I would just get real, I had very impatient, short views.
Mhm.
And then I realized it's the people, this person I'm choosing, they have a way of just making me feel like just frustrated. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I love so much about my husband is that he's very even and I mean, don't get me
Grounded.
wrong. Yeah, he's very grounded.
Yeah.
I still get, I mean, we have our times, of course, where he'll say something and I'm like, what do you mean by that? But just in general, he's very calm and even. And that was a very good move for me because I can sense, the tension in the air or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
just very, I don't know. So I think it's important to
So it
pick who you
balance you
surround.
too. Somehow,
Yeah.
you guys being together kind of balance each other. You balance
Yeah.
each other out,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know.
Because I'm kind of the whole Latina. I get angry. And so I've gotten better. But
Uh-huh.
he's been very good for me with that.
Y-
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, do you think that as we get older, because I've heard about this when I was younger, that as we get older, obviously we're supposed to become wiser, and then we have a good sense of people around us, and how things works in the universe, right? So, but also I've also heard from women when I was a teenager that when you're in your 20, then you have a new set of wisdom, and then when you're in your 30, then you're better than when you're 20, and then when you're 40, you just don't give a crap what people's negative people say about you, or what
Mhm.
people are thinking about you, and you become more outspoken when you're in your 40s, you know what I mean? Because I don't know if you've heard about that when you were younger,
Yeah.
Maria.
Yeah. I have heard of that. And I think a lot of it is just, you have so many more life experiences
Mhm.
and you kind of begin to figure things out.
Mhm.
Although I've got to tell you that I just turned 50 in January. And I thought, man, I thought I'd be a lot more mature than this. So I realize it doesn't just magically happen, right?
No,
But
yeah.
you do see a lot of things too. Like, we're talking about making decisions.
Mhm.
I've got to say that I've kind of
You
been a
think you
late.
got better
I
as far as making conscious
Yeah,
decision?
yes, yes, and I think part of it is I watch people and I
Mhm.
see people make mistakes.
Mhm.
Um, like I didn't get married until I was older. I could watch the people around me getting married and what their issues were.
Mhm.
I had children later, so I could kind of have time to sit and think, I wouldn't do that.
Mhm.
Or I want to, and the same thing with just so many other things. You begin to see a lot. You have friends that make decisions. You are able to, you just have more resources to draw from.
Yeah.
I read a lot of books. As I said, I spend a lot of time in the Word, looking
Uh-huh.
at that wisdom.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I have heard what you've said. Yeah, that each decade kind of brings a new
I
level of.
They
wisdom.
even made a movie about that. I think, I
Oh,
don't know, something you probably don't know anything about it, but I forget what it's at. It's like something about 30 or something like that. Like they made a movie,
oh, 13 going on 30?
something, well, that's a movie, yes, but then it
Okay.
was like a series. It's a bunch of women that they're in their 30s or 40s
Hmm.
that they were kind of like expressing that when you're at that age, things change and your perception of the world is different than when you were
Hmm.
younger. Like for me,
Okay.
I'm like, I noticed that, I mean, besides making conscious decision, I thought I've done it all or I've known it all. But, at 50, I'm like, oh, I'm more outspoken.
Hmm.
And I knew that I was more after college. I knew because I kind of like trained myself to think like this, that I need to be more accepting of people that are different than me, and if I don't understand, then if and you can't find answer, then just accept it for people, for who they are, as far as people. But as I got older, I'm just like, I don't know if it's me because I'm always, I think I worked on myself when I was younger. And then I had become very, very secure about myself, my self esteem, and then
Hmm.
learn how to love myself, self respect and all that stuff. So
Hmm.
therefore, nothing out there can, I think, attack me and make me feel really, really small. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So in a way, it's a good thing because what I now put out there is also good by empowering other people. It doesn't matter if it's women, kids, or men. You know what I mean? If I feel like that, hey, maybe this person just need this kind of advice, and
Hmm.
if this person allows me, then I'll give that advice. And I've always like practiced this kind of rules with my kids. I want to empower them early on,
Hmm.
and I want them to be really secure as far as self-esteem, so
Yes.
that way they can be a go-getter and fearless. That what I found out though, Maria, is that even though you teach this to people, the self-esteem part doesn't happen right away. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I think for me, the reason why it happened is because I did a lot of self reflection, looking into, and then even with my decision making, like that's why once I realized that I need to make the change for myself, I'm like, from here on, I'm going to make conscious decision or conscious choices all the time because I don't want to keep blaming myself whenever I make bad choices because I
Hmm.
think it would affect my self esteem. Can you
Hmm.
imagine every time you like make bad decisions, you're like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that. Then
Hmm.
you still, you keep thinking about it.
Yes, yes. Regret is so it's it's so hard to get over.
Yeah.
I used to feel that way. I think I had a talk with some of my friends 2 weeks ago, and I was talking about when my kids were young and I was in my 30s, and I spent a lot of time with groups of ladies. And afterwards, I'd go home and think, oh, I shouldn't have said this, or I shouldn't have said
I've
that.
been there.
And I would beat myself up.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh man. And then I realized that some of it is just,
And you can't sleep because
no,
you're so worried, and you
yes,
and you and for me, you're thinking like, what could have been, should have been, would have been, and why did I do that? And then you
right,
start
right.
blaming yourself.
Yes, yes, you do, or I did. And then but then I kind of got to a point where I'm like, you know, I'm not at my best with a big group of women,
Uh-huh.
you know, just, it's like I'm more calm and take my time and watch what I say. If I get in a big group or what, I'm liable to, I'm not thinking. I'm more impulsive and I'm more, so I've learned to kind of guard myself and know when I am at my best and what kinds of things to watch for when I'm with a group of women.
Hmm.
I'm going to be, just so now it's like, okay, I need to be mindful about what I'm going to say
Hmm.
and be careful about this or that.
Mhm.
It just takes experience, maybe. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, that kind of experience is, I think, I can relate with you, Maria, because I remember there are times that I have said stuff that I shouldn't have said, and then I beat myself
Yeah.
over it, like, "Why did you say that? Oh, she might get mad. Oh, this and that," and
Mhm.
then to a point that I'm like, I can't sleep. So I'm like, so
Mhm.
now sometimes I step back and I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything without
Right?
thinking first.
Yeah.
So, without analyzing what I'm gonna say, I'm
Mhm.
making conscious decision whether I should say something or not, even though
Mhm.
my body said and my mind said, say something. I'm like, nope. I'm like, you
Right?
know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah,
Because
I think I'm more guarded. I know that I regret because I think so many years I just didn't really have a good filter on some things. I just said whatever popped into my head, and I still do that at home. And I'm like, I should, because I'm more relaxed. I'm here at the
and
house. And I'm like,
it's your
I probably
family.
shouldn't have said that to my daughter. Because my daughters are they're all teenagers, and,
Uh-huh.
you know, they're very sensitive.
Mhm.
And I just need to I need to remember that and measure that out when I, you know, try
Are you
to,
are you
yeah.
one of those people that are like, I wouldn't say tough because I don't picture you as like, like me, like, hey, do this, I mean, I think you have a way of communicating it, but are you one of those mom that's like, you just say stuff sometimes because you want things done for their sake, though, for their own good? But after you said it, you're like, oh shoot, maybe I offended her. I
Yeah.
do you
Well,
say stuff like that?
I do sometimes, and I can tell when but I know, I've been through counseling, and my counselor said one of the things that I do well is if I feel that I am wrong in
Hmm.
how I've handled something with one of my daughters, I go to her and I apologize and I
Mm.
say, I was a little um,
Hasty.
forceful in that way. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I won't, maybe I don't go back on what I said, but
Uh-huh.
I'll say, I think the way that I said that wasn't very loving.
Yeah.
I love you, but you can't do this. I'm not going to allow you to do that, but
Uh-huh.
I shouldn't have said it in that way. I care about you.
Uh-huh.
Just that you go to them, that means more than if you would have just, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes admitting that how you went about things can do more to restore a relationship
Uh-huh.
than had you not even had the mistake to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we all, and sometimes I just tell my daughters, you know what? I love you, but no, you can't. I said, I love you, but no. And they kind of laugh with me because I do that now. It's like, I want them to know I love them. I get what they're trying to want. I get what they want to do, but my answer is no.
Yeah.
And
You're not you're not gonna give in
I'm
to.
not going to give in. I
Yeah.
mean, I consider myself the guardrails on the road, on the
Yeah.
curvy road. I think I've told you this before. The road is curvy in this life, and I'm the guardrails, and
Uh-huh.
they're going to bump up against me, but they're not going off the cliff. I'm going to keep them on there,
Yeah.
and
That's
they're
a
going to
good
bump up against the
explanation.
guardrail 1,000 times, but
Uh-huh.
my job is to hold them on the road a thousand and
Yes.
one, 1,001.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay with I'm okay with saying no. But it is, it is hard because I do love them, and we have a close relation. So they talk to me a lot. So it does feel like a friendship,
Uh-huh.
but I always tell them I'm going to have to pull the mom card out,
Yeah.
because I am your mom.
Yeah.
And so maybe later we'll just be friends, but I doubt it.
I do.
I,
No.
I was going to share a quote with you
Oh, okay.
about maturity
Uh-huh.
in these kids, because I know
Okay.
you have the college uh,
Go ahead, Maria. Go ahead.
Is it
Share it with
Avon?
us.
Avon is in college, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And you were talking about you have to help him choose colleges
Hmm.
that fit within the realm of he's a swimmer, you know?
Hmm.
And so I found what I was telling you. There's a book called Welcome to Your Child's Brain: How the Mind Grows from Conception to College.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And this person who wrote it is a neuroscientist.
Hmm.
Okay. A neuroscientist. And she says the brain is not fully finished developing until about age 25.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I've heard that. I've heard that
I've heard that.
quoted. I've read books, 25 years old. And
Hmm.
so I believe that. I mean, I look back and I, my parents were very involved, even though I was in college. I was glad I had my parents there to help me. Everything from when I had a flat tire to boyfriends, they let me know. Now, they didn't tell me what to do, but
Hmm.
they let me know what their thinking was on things. And
Hmm.
they were there to guide me. And I think that that whole thing we do where, well, they're 18, they're out of the house. You know, I
Yeah.
don't feel that way. I feel like they still need a parent, and they still need it. Also had there was another quote about, a lot of the problems that people get into, the trouble is between ages 18 and 25. And a lot of it is because of the lack of parental supervision.
I have never I have never heard of that, but now that you said it,
Huh?
it's like, it's like processing in my head, and I'm like, I can see how that can be.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, Maria, since you mentioned about college. So when Avon, gosh, I'm like trying to think about how we made a decision. Um, since we were picking college, I think what ended up happening was, we couldn't decide. As a matter of fact, Avon got accepted at ASU, which is Arizona State University, and
Hmm.
he was offered an $8,000 scholarship, and it's supposed to renew every year. So he
Uh-huh.
said, "Mom, I have a scholarship because of my grade. His grade was like 3.5 for a boy. That was really good, I guess. You know what I mean?"
Yes. Yes.
Um, and so I'm like, "Well, that's good, son." And I'm like, "But and this is where the conscious decision making comes in, okay? Making conscious decision. So I had to make a decision and explain this to Evan because I'm like, I do want you to go to college. And yes, it's good that you got $8,000 as a scholarship, but you're not going to be able to swim because ASU is the number one in the country as far as there's our swimming team for men. I mean, I think the coach actually is Michael Phelps' coach, Bob Bowman.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
And that's why Avon was
Wow.
eyeing it, and that's why he applied. But
Yes.
here's the thing, because we have a lot of good swimmer in United States, we were, the guys that are there are actually in the national level, which is like, like
Mm.
can
Mhm.
swim, to the Olympic. So even
Wow.
it's not there yet. We're doing baby steps, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
obviously, if he applies there, he's not going to be even entertained, as far as being in the team or being another swimmer for the team.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, if you go there, then academic wise, and you're going to be close to us, that's good. But I don't want Avon to not do anything as far as sports. The only reason is because swimming is all he knows for the most
Mm.
part of his life,
Uh-huh.
since he was like, I think 6 or 7 years old. So can you imagine, you practice 6 days a week and then you stop? He's going to feel like
Mhm.
he's lost, and then he's
Yeah.
not going to have any direction, and then he's going to feel like that he's missing something,
Mhm.
and then come with that, he will end up probably making bad choices. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
want him to feel like, I want him to feel like he still have control of, his surroundings and the people he surrounds himself with. So I want to still keep him, yeah, swimming in college. That's why we decided to choose the upstate New York because he got
Mhm.
recruited, even though that school didn't offer him as anything as far as scholarship because it's three division oh it's division three. They don't have a lot of resources. So there was no scholarship as far as swimming. And then academic wise, he missed the deadline, like time
Mhm.
wise. He could have had probably like $5,000. That's what the coach said. But because we missed it, because we made last minute decision, then he's just went there to swim. And I think it's good. I mean, it did serve something positive and good for his soul and spirit, because he's surrounded by a lot of his swim mates that are like,
Mhm.
doing the same thing, having the same goals, and what they want in life. But as
Mhm.
far as the coach, they don't have a coach right now. So
Mm.
these kids are swimming with no real coach. They have an interim coach, but then with that, I think it just added more stress on them, because
Yes.
they're like, they're not aligning. The vision of the interim coach is totally different than the swimmers. If you are a swimmer that's been swimming in a high level, you have a different expectation and you have a higher standard. And if you have a coach that doesn't have any experience and just there to kind of help out,
Mhm.
because that's what they ended up resorting to, then obviously the decision making and the decision that's being made by the adults are totally different.
Mhm.
And that puts some stress on the swimmers. And it's not just my son, it's the other swimmers too. So I have become his cheerleader, as well as I have to choose my words consciously on how to empower him, so that
Mhm.
way he will feel like empowered and still motivated to continue
Mhm.
on, even though there's a lot going on in his
Mhm.
surroundings right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
my advice, actually, since we're on this topic, Maria, is that when we made a decision, me and Avon, we looked at pros and cons and all the things that could go wrong. But then I told Avon, let's just say, and this is like few months back, me and him were talking about this. I said to him, let's just say this thing didn't work out as far as swimming. Well, at least you can always get out with a 2-year degree like your AA, and then
Mhm.
continue on to a different school to get your bachelor.
Mhm.
Or you can um, make history in that school by, breaking records. And he did.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
something
great.
will still positive that will come out of it, and
Yes. Yeah.
that's what we made our decision on. I mean, even without Maria, seriously, it's like a lot of, I think, me and him, like, we didn't just make a decision right away. It just took us
Yeah.
probably like a good 2 or 3 weeks, because when we found out
Mhm.
that we wouldn't have any coach, that was like, I believe, in May or June. And then we only have like 2 or 3 months, and then the first, the fall semester starts. That
Yeah.
was last year. And so we really like put some thought into it as far as thinking. And then when he made a decision, then I just have to agree with it, because I'm thinking, you know what, I want to empower my son, even though I already know from my, from, I was feeling this thing in my gut feeling. I had a gut feeling that, oh man, this is not going to turn out good. As a parent, you just know that. As an adult, because
Yeah.
you felt that feeling before.
Yes.
But I don't want to like kill his spirits and hopes, and I don't want him to think that, hey, mom, because you made the decision, how do I know what's on the other side? Whether we did it,
Mhm.
whether we made a good decision or not as far as staying. So I
Yeah.
allowed him to make that decision. And then with that, now he's experiencing this. Then
Mhm.
now he can say, oh, now I get it.
Mhm.
This is me. I'm a kid. I'm inexperienced. Yes, the school considered me as an adult, because that's what the school told me when I
Oh,
was
yeah.
advocating
Okay.
for him. He's
Yeah.
18, he's an adult. Mom, you're out of it now. But I had to, um, I guess I wouldn't say, it's not a disagreement. What's the proper word I'm trying to think here as far as explaining this? It's not a disagreement, but I had to explain my point of view that, this is to the athletic director, that even though my son is considered adult in United States, including your school, he is not
Mhm.
making an adult decision because he's inexperienced. He's not like
Yeah.
us parents who are in our 50s that
Mhm.
we've experienced enough to say, hey, I see where this thing is going.
Mhm.
S-
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that was like a wake up call for me. And I realized that I'm like, wow, I'm really going to have to guide my adult kids then, even though they're adult, Maria.
Yeah. Well, I think so, but I think you did a great job, Mary, because you are helping him take some responsibility in the decision making,
Hmm.
and yet you were trying to paint the picture of what can happen, and then he made his decision, and and now he sees what that decision is like. And even a difficult circumstance, you're going to learn things, and he will begin, because I really think that the older I got, the more I respected my parents, because I
Hmm.
realized how difficult decisions were.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I had to make the difficult calls that I learned how, wow, that's an adult decision,
Hmm.
because if we're always making the call for our kids, they don't learn. So you
Hmm.
you did a good job of kind of, you know, helping him along to try to make that decision. And maybe you had some reservations,
Hmm.
but you said, well, here's what you might be able to do if this goes wrong. At
Hmm.
least you pointed it out there,
Hmm.
and you can see where to go from here. I mean, he's had almost a year of that, and you can weigh
Yeah.
your options. And you know, I
It's
think,
that it's not it's not it's not that easy to make decisions, you know that, Maria? I mean,
no.
making just regular decisions is hard, but making conscious decision, because then you're kind of like, torn between like, just make the decision, damn it, don't analyze it. But then you're like, no, 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 I don't want to do that, because if this thing goes
Mhm.
wrong, I don't want to regret anything. So I have to make sure that I analyze this. Sometimes my husband tells me, Mary, you overanalyze things. I'm like, well, there's a reason, because I don't want to have regrets.
Yes. Well, and the older we get, the more important the decision is.
Uh-huh.
That's another thing. It said 18 to 25 years old, you're making some very important decisions. You know,
Did
it's
they
like,
elaborate why?
well, like, okay, you think about it, Mary. Okay, when my kids were 6 and 8 years old,
Hmm.
I picked their friends. Like, I
Hmm.
knew the moms. We had play dates. They came over to our house. We went over
Hmm.
there. I had control. But then now they're in high school. They see other kids in their classes. They're making their own friends. And now it's like, maybe you should have them come over, because it's like, I want to get to know these friends because I don't know them. You
Yeah.
know, their world is increasing. And so when they're 18 to 25, they're deciding things like college, their job, their career,
Huh?
showing up to work, their relationships. They could become parents.
Oh
There's
my
a
gosh.
lot of
Yeah. When they're a
big
kid
things. Yeah,
themselves,
there are
right?
a lot of big things that can happen between
Hmm.
18 and 25, and they're
Uh-huh.
still impulsive. They're
Yeah.
still impulsive, you
Yeah.
know? And so I'm not saying they can't pull it off. There are 18-year-olds that graduate high school, and um, they get a job, and they're responsible, but I'm betting that they had a lot of practice growing up. I'm betting that their family was very stable, and that they encouraged them to be independent and make
Hmm.
decisions, and that they had a lot of practice. But
Hmm.
those that aren't doing well at 18, you know, they graduate and then they don't do anything. They probably had a very unstable,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. But so I don't know. We try to encourage ours towards college, but college isn't for everyone, too.
Yeah. College is not
And
for everyone. I mean, speaking
right,
of that,
yeah.
um, I think it's like Mike and I had a conversation about this, and he said something like, "You don't need you don't need a college degree to be successful in life, or to
Right.
to be
Yeah.
successful in business." I
Right.
mean, no, you don't need to go to college, but I think for me, I saw it, Maria. Because I'm like, I had to pause sometimes because I'm like trying to think and remember my experience back then,
Hmm.
and what made me realize that college did help me because
It did help me.
uh-huh. The only reason why is because I put myself to college, and obviously I had to work my butt off full time to support myself to college. Then I started
Yeah.
questioning everything. I'm like, is it worth for me to go to college? I mean, yeah, it's a little diploma. I mean, would that help me get a job? But then what else is there besides getting a job? So that's when
Hmm.
I started interviewing people that are in college, at the
Hmm.
time. And then
Hmm.
what they told me, Mary, what you learn from high school is totally different than what you're going to learn in college.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to have math, English, dot, dot, dot again. But after that, there's more to it. And I'm like, really?
Hmm.
So, you know what? I gave it a try. I gave it a chance. Then once I'm actually in the middle of my 4-year degree, I was like, wow, there's a lot I learned. I learned about psychology, about
Hmm.
child development that they didn't
Hmm.
offer that class in high school. Also like what do you call this, sociology,
Hmm.
and just having a grasp of being big-minded person rather than a small-minded person. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like
Hmm.
being a well-rounded person. So, and
Yes.
then I think because they said, I think one of the stuff that people said that when you go to college, they really don't teach you like life skills. Well, college is not going to teach you life skills. It's going to teach you probably the fundamental of stuff, but it's up to you to learn on how to apply certain things you learn from college to your
Hmm.
everyday life, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think for me it is worth it because it made me become a better person, and it made me understand people more, and become more humble, and have an
Hmm.
open mind to things, and not be afraid to changes. That's
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
it did to me. I don't know what it did to you. What did it contribute to you positively?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say first that I did not want to go to college. I wanted to go to beauty school and do hair. But
I can see
I
you
grew
doing that, Maria.
right. So, but see, I grew up very poor, and
Uh-huh.
my father said, "You're going to college. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have a choice. You will
Mm-hmm.
go,"
Hmm.
because he did not get to go to college.
Yeah.
And he always worked so hard, all these different jobs. He
Uh-huh.
could do a lot of things, but he always felt limited because he didn't have a degree. And he went to some schooling, electronic school, but then he didn't like it. But
Mm-hmm.
and then he stuck. He didn't like what he was trained to do,
Yeah.
but he didn't have a degree. So he said, "You will go." And I was like, I don't know if that's for me. You know, and he said, you just take your general ed requirements
Uh-huh.
and then you take a bunch of classes that you think might interest you, but you major in business. And I'm like, okay. So I did not like accounting and stuff like that, but I took stuff like social media, media and society was one of them. Psychology, like you talked about, sociology,
Uh-huh.
photography, anything that interests me, I just took them as my electives.
Yeah.
And then I got into education. And then I loved it. I'm like, I'm going into education because I loved learning about how people learn. And I was like, this is great stuff.
Mhm.
So then
Yeah.
I think what college did for me is it helped me to not have this fixed mindset that I'm not one of those head in the books kind of kids.
Uh-huh.
I'm not a college student. I'm not,
Uh-huh.
I had to get a lot of loans and I had some
I did that too.
scholarships, but
Uh-huh.
I really I had a lot. But you know what it did for me is it gave me confidence that I
Yeah,
can do
I like
this.
that.
Yeah.
I
And
like that.
it also taught me a lot about a lot of different things.
Uh-huh.
And to this day, I use photography every day. I take pictures of tools.
Mhm.
I took so many pictures. In media and society, I mean, I'm not afraid to get in front of a camera. I'm not afraid, I learned a lot of speech type things. I had to make a lot of presentations.
Mhm.
I still use that today. I make presentations all the time. All of these things and learning how to learn because of my business, I've had to learn how to use Shopify and
Mhm.
I ask questions. I don't feel like I can't do it. Instead,
Mhm.
I feel like I can learn anything. I know how
Yeah.
people learn, you
So it
know?
kinda, like, gave you that empowering
Yes,
mindset that,
it
"You
did.
know what? I don't need to be afraid to do this, because I
Yeah,
think maybe that's what college
yeah,
taught you then, right? That
it
it's
did. And
okay to.
yeah, it's okay. And it's like I said, like I had certain things I had to show up in the business suit
Mhm.
and poised. So
Mhm.
I feel like I can be that way towards people, or I can just be myself and, I can just mix with different groups of people and not feel like this person is above me.
Mhm.
I don't feel that way. I,
Mhm.
I think that my dad felt that way, like he wasn't smart enough to talk to people, or he wasn't like he just felt.
He has some kind of insecurity then.
He
That's what
did.
it. Yeah.
He did. And he's like, and it's not even what you know, it's your connections, he would
Mhm.
say. It's
Mhm.
who you know.
Yeah.
And you will get to know more people in college. And it's true. I got to do a lot of things with the community.
Mhm.
I got to know a lot of people. And just look at our industry. When we go to Mobile Tech Expo, we get to know people.
Mhm.
And from doing that, we've gotten so many more connections with people that, we work with more people.
Mhm.
When we were just our company and we stayed in Bolivar, Missouri, we didn't grow. And
Yes.
so we went to MTE and we got to know more people. And now we have grown as a
Mhm.
company
Mhm.
because we're learning from all these other people around us,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, that's good, that's good. I think when you said that, Maria, it just reminded me that I think what college gave me is how to communicate to people, because 'cause I'm a
Hmm.
very shy person, but being in college, you're almost, like, forced to, like, I mean, like, for business,
Yes.
I took business administration, and there's a difference
Mhm.
also with, when Triana and I are looking at colleges. Certain schools offer business, but then I told her
Mhm.
it needs to be business administration where it will have this curriculum,
Mhm.
accounting, marketing, what do you call this, communication, and
Mhm.
economics, because you need to know the micro versus the macro
Oh,
economics, all that stuff.
yes.
Because in other schools they say we do have business, but then it's focused more on economics. But I
Yeah.
want to give her, like, almost like a well-rounded kind of a
Mhm.
vision of what she needs to grasp on and learn, you know, so that
Yes.
way she can thrive in the business world or
Mhm.
business
Mhm.
industry. So for me, I learned how to communicate, because when you're shy, you're just like, you don't want to say anything. And then in your head, you're thinking, should I say something or should I not? No, what happens if I say something that's so totally stupid?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or what
Mhm.
happens if I don't know how to respond to people? But
Yes.
college, part of my class or part of my curriculum is like to, it's communication, to learn how to communicate
Mhm.
effectively. And so when I was in that class, I learned how to, like, wow, this is what goes on in people's head. And and this is why there's misunderstanding, because one is decoding and one is encoding. And so that's why it's important to communicate effectively, because I could be saying, "Hey, you're pretty," but then you could be decoding that differently than what I meant it to tell you. So
Mhm.
so that's why I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that it taught me how to be able to communicate to people and articulate, and then become a better problem solver. I
Yes.
think, yes, I think especially when you're in business, because you're running your own small business, you're
Mhm.
going to come across with people that are difficult and then people that are not difficult. And comes with that are problems that are different every day. So if you're not a good problem solver, I don't know how you're gonna like make it. You could be making bad decision and it's not gonna take your business in a good place. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did it because it empowered me to be able to troubleshoot problem and solve it.
Yes, yeah.
You
Well,
know?
yes. And I don't know if that's across the board with all degrees,
Mm-hmm.
but, I majored in education, and a lot of my schooling back then was about classroom management and
Mm-hmm.
dealing with difficult students and
Mm-hmm.
difficult people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's funny that I tend to like the high maintenance people. Like, I like to try to please them. It's like, I know that everybody's scared of this person, but I'm going to find a way where we're like this, we're like buddies,
Yeah.
because I know I can find a way. And a lot of it is things like, like when somebody's getting really charged up and
Yeah.
heated,
Uh-huh.
you can't match that. You're
Yeah.
just going to cause more frustration. But
Yeah.
if you will listen to them until they kind of wind down and then just kind of talk slowly
Uh-huh.
and more calm, they start matching you. It's the
Yeah.
natural tendency is people match one another.
Yeah.
So if I break it down, then they calm down
Yeah.
and they're listening. You know,
Yeah.
and then so there are things that I learned in education in college that I use today in my home
Yes.
with business, and it's just kind of like,
How to deal with an irate customer, huh?
how to deal with an
Probably.
irate customer. And a
versus
lot of times
versus
they're not even,
misunderstood kid.
yeah, and a lot of times it's not even a big problem. It's just people come thinking they're out to get me. They've had things happen in their life and they're like, this is just one more thing. And you're like, and you listen, and then you're like, oh, this is an easy fix. Let
Mhm.
me do XYZ. And
Mhm.
they're like, you can do that? And I'm like, yeah,
And
yeah.
Maria, I bet you the more calm you are,
Mhm.
the more they're like surprised because why are you so calm? Maybe I need to be calm too.
Right? Well,
Right?
really, it helps them, and everybody wants peace and calm, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, I have to admit, I'm like you, Mary. I learned some very valuable
Well,
things in
yes.
college, but again, I know not everybody needs to do that and go that route. And um,
It's not for them. No, here
yeah,
no.
yeah. I'm
Here's
just
the
saying
thing.
that for my own kids, I would like to, I am a believer in education, even if you don't go to, college, that you educate yourself in the field that is interesting to you,
Mhm.
and you go all out. You go
Mhm.
all out in it. You learn to be a professional in
Mhm.
that field. So I'm very big on continuing education, but whatever that looks like,
Yeah. No,
maybe it's a university, maybe not, but
I agree with you, Maria. It doesn't have to be college, but every day we should be learning about something that
yes.
we don't
Well,
know.
okay, look at
You know?
what you and Mike do together with your dent trainer. You probably work with a lot of people that are not college graduates, but they're a professional in the field of paintless dent removal.
Mhm.
And then you are giving them this extra information with how to grow their business. And that's so valuable. You're using your expertise and you're sharing with them. And they're becoming better at becoming a professional. And that's just going to help lift them up. And
Mhm.
so they are doing continuing education.
Mhm.
They are becoming, and I think that's important, whatever field that is, just
They should.
like I'm doing yoga. I'm a yoga instructor. Well,
Yeah.
it's important for me to get extra certification and try other things and go to other yoga retreats and things like that. I need that to get better for myself.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And it's probably also will help you relax and then,
Hmm.
have a different sense of I guess
Confidence.
accomplishment, right? That's what it is. I mean,
Hmm.
when you empower someone, or I think you by going to yoga classes or even the retreat, you're trying to empower yourself. Then you have a different, I guess, opinion about things, and you see things differently, right?
Yeah, you learn from one another. I mean,
Uh-huh.
even as a teacher, when I taught third grade, we'd have like 9 other classroom teachers that are teaching third grade. We'd sit together and talk. And how are you teaching about, solids,
Yes.
liquids, and gases? What
Yeah.
are you doing here? And you just kind of, it's like a collaboration, you
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
more you get with more people, the better it becomes because it's not one mind, it's
Yes.
many. So,
So in that sense, the more heads, I think
mm-hmm,
there's a saying about this, more heads better than one. You know what I mean?
uh-huh,
Or
yeah.
maybe I might have messed that slogan up.
I don't know, but yeah, it's like, if you've heard of a mastermind, when it's many people getting together and now you all have the same mindset and it's been elevated
Hmm.
to everyone else's experiences.
Hmm.
So that's kind
I
of
think,
cool.
yeah, I think it's like, I know what you mean by the mastermind thing. I think with those mastermind, if I'm gonna sign up with any of those as far as higher education, it would be like you have to tell me something or show me something that would be like an aha moment for me, like, oh, I
Hmm.
didn't know that. Then that's
Yeah,
when I can
you
say
have
this is well worth it. You know what I mean? Because
I
yeah.
know what you mean. Yeah, I'm not in any of those groups,
Hmm.
but it is like it has to be at a level higher than where you are,
Hmm.
right? Unless you're the leader and you're the mentor, what good is it if it's not going to be lifting you up? You do have to find your
Well, somebody has to lead. You know what I mean? Somebody has to like be
right.
telling more than the others. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
like
And
that,
they've
like
kind of agreed they're the mentor, they're
yeah,
the Mhm.
yeah. So that would be yeah. Because I I have I think when I was doing seriously, trying to remember this now, when I was like in college and I was working for the city of San Diego, I actually did internship. And then the person that was mentoring me at the time, I didn't know I was being, that I was a mentee or and being mentored, but he mentioned something about it, because like I was just doing internship. I figured, okay, if I do internship, then I can get a job easily
Mhm.
after
Yes.
college.
Right.
So, but while in it, I learned something because he was like teaching me stuff that's like
Mhm.
almost like every week I have that aha moment. I mean, one of the things that he taught me until to this day, I remember, he said, Mary, I want you to do this. But what do you need? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I need? Well, what kind of tools do you need in order for you to succeed or to achieve your goals that I ask you to do for me? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't put some thought into that yet. And then he said, look, I want you to achieve what I ask you to do. And in
Mhm.
the process, you're going to need some tools. So if you think of something that you need, then let me know because I want you to have the right tools to achieve your goals. And I was like, wow, that is so deep. I thought I was deep. And I was like, that's deep. I like
Yeah. Yes. You know what? That is so exciting. That reminds me of something.
that.
Until you're put in charge of something,
Uh-huh.
you don't really give it any thought. You
Uh-huh.
know, John talks about that as a business owner. If
Hmm.
you don't own the business, sometimes you're just showing up and just doing your job, but you're
Hmm.
not really, the business owner thinks like, how do I get all these moving parts to
Hmm.
push it forward, And so I can remember when I was student teaching and they put me in charge of this big production they were having and bringing in all these classes and doing all this stuff. And I remember thinking, do they know who they asked to do this? I can't do this kind of thing. But I got stressed out and I sat down. I thought it all out. I made, drew it all out, how I'm going to have to do this, what time I'm going to have to go and do this. And then, man, I had the plan. And then that day I showed up and, you know, I don't know why they thought I could do it.
They
I
saw
don't know.
something in you, Maria.
I guess. But until I been put in charge of something like that, I didn't know I was capable of it. So that goes back to our kids, if you're not giving them some control,
Uh-huh.
they're not going to learn
You need to
how to
empower
get
them.
control. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not going to know what they need to get to push it forward. You
Mhm.
know, you've got to help them see what are the like your person told you, your mentor told you, what are you going to need to
Mhm.
get this done? You
Yeah.
tell me and I'll get to you.
Yeah.
And so it's like that's the same thing with me. It was like, okay, I'm going to need to come up with what is it going to take to pull this event off,
So that means
and
you
it's,
so that
yeah,
means, Maria, you put some thought into it. So, you're making
yeah,
conscious decision that you want to execute this properly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you put some thought into it.
Oh,
You know what I
girl,
mean?
yes. And that reminds me of another time. I don't know why this happened, Mary. I don't, because when John and I got married, when we got married,
It's almost like a movie, you know what? I don't know.
I,
It's like,
I
you're
don't
giving me
know.
the ET vibe, Oh, I don't know how this happened, but it happened. And then I learned
Seriously,
something in the process.
I know. But seriously, so John and I got married, and I poor family. So I knew my parents weren't going to come up with this big wedding.
Mhm.
I said, John, I just want an outdoor wedding, a simple wedding dress, you know. But by then we knew so many people. It ended up being a very big wedding, but
Oh, wow.
it was just he had his dad stand up for him.
Mhm.
I had my best friend. I mean, that was it.
Mhm.
But like 5 years later, we have this couple that comes to us and they want us to do their wedding planning and all of this. This
What?
girl comes to me, her family comes to me and says, Maria, we want your help with the wedding. And we're going to have this big wedding and we're going to do all this stuff. And the girl's mom was one of those mothers of the bride that everything had to be perfect. And I was like, you want me to help you with your wedding? She's like, yeah, like be my wedding planner. And I
But you're
was
not a
like,
wedding planner. so
I
she
was like,
so
are
did
you
they
sure?
see you on
Yeah.
your
And
wedding day? That gave
no,
them a glimpse
they
that
weren't there for the wedding day. So I said, listen, I had a very small wedding and
uh,
but for some reason she saw in me somebody that she thought could pull this off.
could be a
I
wedding
remember
planner.
coming, I remember coming home to John and said, John, Kenneth and Kristen want me to do this wedding and they're going to have it here and over there and the reception. I'm like, what were they thinking? And the family was in on it too, like the mom and then the husband. I'm like, what? And he looked at me like, yeah, what were they thinking?
So
I
what
said, so
happened?
I said, so John, you're going to have to help me. And I
Oh, you
mean,
did it?
we did it. We did
Oh
it,
my
and
gosh, that's
it was
okay.
great. I mean, she had the big photographers there, all this stuff. We had little, coordinating all the people walking and the children, and they wanted to have children pulling a wagon with more children in it. I was like, oh my goodness. It went well, but again, I don't know how I get pulled into these things, but what happened is I had to really think about all the moving parts.
Yes.
But once you do that, you're better for having done it.
Yeah.
So I would never have said I could pull that off. But I think, again, if you take responsibility for doing some things that seem to stretch you,
Uh-huh.
you're you can do it. It's just going to take thought, thoughtful planning and, a lot of work, but you can
Well,
do it.
that's isn't it, Maria, that's going back to conscious choice?
Confidence. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, you made a conscious choice to go ahead and, you know, do it, help them out.
Mhm,
But then with that, you came
mhm.
prepared
Yeah,
by actually, figuring out what would go here, what would go there. Everything has to be organized. So that way it can be executed
yeah,
successfully.
yeah,
And everything went well
yeah,
after
yeah.
that,
I'll tell
right?
you what drives me is I want to help, and then the fear of what if everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
I cannot handle, like you said, regret. I mean,
Uh-huh.
this is someone's wedding day, if something goes wrong and it's my fault, you know, and so fear is a good motivator.
Uh-huh.
So
But
yeah.
here's the thing, Maria. I bet you. Tell me the feelings that you felt after you realized that everything went well and it was successful. What did it make you feel like?
Okay, so John and I, okay, and their wedding day was on our wedding day.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay.
it was
So it was your anniversary.
our 5-year anniversary. And
Okay.
John and I, we finished their wedding, we catch a flight, we go to New York City,
Mhm.
and I was like, John, we pulled it off. We were so excited that Elena came along 9 months later, and
Uh-huh.
I had not been able to conceive a kid, but we were so excited, and we were just like, oh, we cannot. We were so excited, and yeah, we
That's
had a great vacation, but we were like, we did this.
yeah.
It was, and it was very building for us, and I'm glad that I realized I need some serious help with this. I cannot do this alone.
And
You
you
know,
asked John to
I
help you.
asked John, and
Kudos to John for helping you because
he
most men would say, I don't want to get involved. That's not a guy thing. You know what I
I
mean?
know.
But kudos to him that he helped you and then
Oh,
it
yeah.
was successful and
Yeah,
then it
that
made you
ceremony, we're like on the different phones. I'm in one location, he's in the other. I'm like, send him on. It's just, I needed that. And, he's very grounding because, yeah, I would be getting all nervous but
Uh-huh.
he's very calm. And
Yeah.
so
That's good. That's a good story. I like that, Maria. I mean, I actually like planning stuff like that. It's
oh,
just
do
because I'm
you?
so creative that, yeah, I
Yeah.
actually plan our own wedding.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I was on a budget. I have to stay within the budget, and
Hmm.
then I have to be creative to a point that I'm like, okay, I can only probably invite 60 people, but I want it to be fun, and I want it to be unique, and I wanted
Hmm.
the alcohol to be like flowing all night long. So I ended up planning a boat wedding.
A
So for
boat.
4 hours, we were, yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's so neat. A boat wedding.
yeah.
That's neat.
So we were in the harbor. Yeah, we were out in the ocean partying 4 hours, drinking for 4 hours. We had the DJ, and it was just all fun.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and it was memorable. So and
Yeah. It
and
was
that
just
was
what you wanted.
exactly. And
Mhm.
then the ceremony was it was like I think I had the ceremony at Balboa Park because they have like good places there to take pictures, as
Mhm.
well as La Jolla, close to the water. So we took a lot of pictures. It was good.
Mhm.
And the flowers, I like that. But
Oh, yeah. I liked all the natural flowers. Yes. Love it.
yes.
Mhm.
But then guess what? After, I mean, yes, it was stressful, but then you know what? If I'm gonna do it all over again, I will, because the empowerment that I felt after I got that done, and it was a success because you can tell because my friends were like, "Oh, that was a lot of fun." It was this and it was that, and we had a DJ, the music was good, da 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 da, alcohol all night, the food was good. Then when you hear the positive feedback, you're like, "Yeah, I did it. I did
You did it.
something. I
Yeah.
accomplished something."
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's like
Got it.
empowers us. So that's why it's like, yeah, I'll do it again. And I actually like asked my cousin, I said, cousin, do you want to like be like a wedding coordinator? We can open up a business. And she's like, that's a lot of responsibility, Mary. And I'm like, I'm up for it. I'm up for a challenge. But obviously it didn't materialize because she has a full-time job and I have this.
You know what I like about you, Mary, is that you are up for a challenge. I'm that same way. I like to be challenged. Um, I think it just makes me better. It drives me, you know?
Uh-huh.
That's just kind of like, I don't know why, but every time you say, Maria, can you do a podcast? I'm like, yes, I can do this. I don't care what's going on in my day and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah.
And it's just fun because then when it's over, I'm like, yeah, yep, we got that accomplished and
Yep.
it's out there.
Yep.
And
Because
so it's,
normally when I call you, it's like 2 days or 3 days, before
yeah.
we record or we go live because I get so busy, Maria. I apologize. Normally I plan ahead, like 1 week ahead.
Oh no,
But
it's okay. I wasn't, no, I'm just like, and that's with a lot of things, it's like somebody asks you to do something. I mean, not always. I think it's very good to say no. And I do think that's an important lesson. If something doesn't align with what you're about
hmm
or what you enjoy doing, then you need to learn to say no,
hmm
or if you're overcommitted.
yeah,
But when it's something that you enjoy or something that will benefit other people or it goes along with then I think it's okay to accept that challenge
yeah.
and go
No,
for it, make
that's
it happen.
Well, that's what I noticed when you said that, hey, I'm going to talk to this child who is misunderstood. And if I just if I just, speak slow and low
Mm-hmm.
to that level that he
Mm-hmm.
can understand and maybe calm himself down, then
Yes.
you're going to get the result that you want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So right there, when you said that earlier, I already knew that you're up for any challenge too. Because,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time people would be like, I don't want to deal with someone who's like difficult. You know what I mean? I would rather do something else. But there
Yeah,
are those people that's like, they're up for a challenge. They're like, no,
I like that. Mm-hmm. I
yeah.
do. I do, Mary. It's funny.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's good. So I learned something. You and I have something in common.
Mm-hmm.
We like the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
It makes it exciting.
It
So I like that,
does.
Maria, and I like the fact that you choose your words wisely because I do that too. I said that earlier that making conscious choices, right? And one of them could be like how you talk to people or what you say,
Mm-hmm.
and even like with social media, what you post, because you can post, anyone can post anything, right?
Right.
But choosing what you put out there
Mm-hmm.
to to empower or influence people
Mm-hmm.
positively, it's
Mm-hmm.
another thing that
Yes.
takes a lot of discipline.
Yes.
You know what I
It
mean?
does. Well, let me point out something. This guy I know, I have a really good friend,
Okay.
and he is 79.
Okay.
And we invited him over for Thanksgiving, and he met all the
Mhm.
family.
Mhm.
And he asked my sister-in-law,
Mhm.
she's very outspoken, and he asked her, "What are you about?" And she was like, "You had to think about that." But you think about that with your social media, who you are.
Mhm.
What are you about?
What does
And
that
for
mean?
me, well, it's like for me, it's like what I'm about is I love my family and kids. I
Uh-huh.
put stuff up about my family and kids. I love my husband. I put stuff about my husband. I'm about encouraging people. So I try to put something encouraging.
Yeah.
Or, I'm about protecting people from getting burns. And so I heard it was burn week. So I
Mhm.
put up something for that. What are you about? It's good to it's kind of goes back to your self-examination, your reflection. What is Mary Toledo about?
Mhm.
You know, she you're and so when you look at all these things on Facebook, some people are about negativity and passive aggressive behavior. You ever see that where
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
put something out,
Yeah.
and they're talking to one person, but they're shaming that one person on social media.
Mhm.
Do you ever see that kind of
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, and I don't like those passive aggressive people. I mean, either you're going to be
No,
like passive or aggressive. Which one are you?
right? And it's like if you have a problem with someone, just go to them
Uh-huh.
and but why are you calling them out on, and everybody knows who you're talking about that knows you both, it's like,
Mhm.
what is that? And so anyway, what I guess that's my thing is I thought that's such a good question, you know, what are you about?
Mhm.
Because she had to come up with a short, here's what I am about this,
Mhm.
and it causes you to think, what are you, you know? And so anyway, he likes to read a lot of books. He and I have a lot of great conversations, and
Mhm.
we like to talk. And but
That's
I
good.
think about that with my social media. What is Maria Kallenbach about? I hope people would say she's about being kind and
Yeah.
encouraging, and she loves her family. Not
Uh-huh.
about being negative or
Yeah.
um, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's easy to say stuff out, stuff out there, but the question is it gonna hurt someone? I think that's the
Mhm.
question. Is it gonna hurt someone? If it's gonna hurt someone, then just don't say anything at all. That's
Right?
just me. Or
Yeah.
is it gonna like help society? Because if it's not
Okay.
gonna help society, then don't post it at all. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have an example I can give you. This is something I regret, Mary. I have something I regret. So, when John and I came back from MTE and we landed in Springfield, Missouri, it
Hmm.
was freezing and there was ice on the roads. We got to our car. We were freezing getting to our car. The
Hmm.
ice on the windows. It took forever for it to melt. And we start going down the road, and I'm like, oh my goodness, look at that truck off the. I snapped a picture, and another, and another, and we were going down this really big, major highway,
Yeah.
and that thing I posted got shared over 500 times.
So what you posted got shared 500 times?
Over 500 times,
Okay.
but I was just like, wow, it's really slick out. Not
Uh-huh.
really thinking, right?
Uh-huh.
Just how scary it was, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, then so many people in our area used that highway,
Uh-huh.
and schools were canceled, and people were sharing it like, man, it's slick out. Everybody be careful.
Yeah.
And then once I started looking at the pictures more carefully, like one of them looked like a really bad wreck, like maybe somebody didn't quite make it,
Yeah.
maybe. It looked really bad. And so somebody commented on there, did you talk to the family before you? I was like, no.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Right? And I thought, that picture did look really bad. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if they were safe or not.
Uh-huh.
And so I took the whole post down. I just took it down because I
Oh,
thought,
okay. I
because
was
I
gonna go
thought,
back and look. So there was like
I
somebody
took
that
it down
didn't make it?
because I thought, I don't know. I mean,
Oh, okay.
it just looked like a really bad accident, and this truck had flipped over. There were like, it just looked
But
really, really bad.
but
And so, but at the time, I was just taking pictures like,
you're taking bigger,
oh
you're
my
not like putting
goodness,
much
here's
thought
all
into
these.
it. Yeah.
No, I was just taking pictures of how slick it was. And then I had no idea that so many people would see that.
But
And then
Maria,
and
here's
then
the
someone asked the question, "Man, that looked really bad. Did you know, ask the family, or did the family know?"
well,
Because
here's
what
the
if
thing. Is it I thought that your picture though, it's not like a close up to a point that you know who it was who got hurt.
No, no,
And
I
there
don't
was
think
no
so.
driver's license either. So how would you know who the family is to even ask permission from?
Yeah, right. Well, I wouldn't. And
Yeah.
I don't know that it was, I don't know what the news had said. Anyway, the whole point was because I was afraid someone might see that
Uh-huh.
and think, could that be my husband driving down that highway in that wreck? I just took it down because I
Mhm.
thought if that's the case, then they need to find out from the law enforcement their husband
Yeah.
was injured or
Yeah.
whatever, if it was a truck driver.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And so I took it down, but I thought, boy, I didn't really look
Uh-huh.
that carefully at the pictures until later. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, that looked like a really bad wreck. And so that is what I'm sharing with you is I regret not looking carefully at the pictures and not thinking,
Maybe
wow,
there's something there that you shouldn't have posed. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
But
there's somebody who has a truck driver husband or spouse
yeah.
that was on that road that morning and that may make them worry. And
Yeah.
I don't
But I
want to
think
do
here, the way I look at that, I mean, I guess my perspective on it, seeing it, and I'm in California and you're in like Missouri, right?
that.
So seeing that, giving me a glimpse of, wow, they're really getting a bad storm over there. And I hope people are careful driving because there's like a lot of accidents. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's how I interpreted that. Now, am
yeah.
I paying attention whether somebody passed? I think there was one picture, but even with that, there's not a clear, basically what I'm
No, there
saying is
was
that the
no like
pictures.
accident scene where there's, ambulances or anything like that. I mean, there was no,
Yeah,
like,
but there was nothing like that showed either that, like the face close up or the body close up as far as the pictures as well as the
Mhm.
the license plate. So because you took it from a distance,
Right.
you know what I mean?
And the thing
So
was at first it was almost like, what in the world? We just came back from sunny Florida
mhm,
and here we are back home
mhm,
in January. This is Missouri. Yep.
mhm. Yeah,
Everything is frozen and
yeah,
cold and bitter and
yeah,
slippery and so it was just kind of like, well, welcome to Missouri. Snap, snap,
yeah,
snap. This
yeah,
is crazy. This is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
And then it was later, I was like, man, that really was crazy. And it was
mhm,
really slippery. But anyway,
yeah. Well, that's a good share, Maria. I think it's a good share because it wasn't intentional. I don't think you did that
mm,
intentionally, because if you did that intentionally, for one thing, you wouldn't take it down. But the fact that when somebody asked you and you felt bad about it, because that wasn't your intention to post something that's like offensive, so you took it
yeah.
down. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just thought, I don't, I mean, I don't know who that person was. Maybe she was very touchy. Maybe
How do
again,
you know it's
it
she?
was public. The profile,
Oh,
the
you can
profile, the
see you
picture.
can see it from a
I could
distance.
see on the comment. It looked like it was a female that
Okay.
made the comment, and I thought I didn't think about that, and it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Show this. I'm taking it down right now, and
Yeah.
that was it. It was
Yeah.
like okay, but yeah. Anyway, I think, and the other thing is, it's never too late to try to make it right. As
Yes, I
soon
like
as you
that.
know, hmm as soon as
Yeah.
you see that something's not going the right direction,
Yeah.
um, that
Well, see,
reminds me of
see,
something I
that's
tell my
that's when,
daughters.
but
Oh,
but
go ahead.
but what I'm saying, Maria, is that that's when you know when when someone is doing it intentionally versus unintentionally, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're doing it intentionally, even if somebody said something about it, you wouldn't make it right. But
Uh-huh.
because that was unintentional, you basically just like without thinking, you snap, 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 just to say, hey, be careful out there because
Mm-hmm.
we have bad accidents here and there due to the weather.
Mm-hmm.
So you posted it there. You weren't looking at you weren't looking into the details of each picture, and somebody
Mm-hmm.
noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you were confronted, you took it down. So that's the difference between someone who's like not, doing this intentionally to
Mm-hmm.
hurt someone versus
Mm-hmm.
someone who's just like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I
Yeah.
was like, yeah. But that's
Yeah.
good. You made it right.
I
And
think that's important because it
mhm,
goes back to what I was saying about my parenting style. Sometimes I can see that maybe the way I came across to one of my daughters, they may think that, I think their decision is stupid or I didn't like it or I'm mad or, sometimes I think it's okay to come back later and say,
mhm,
um, I'm sorry that hurt your feelings. I still, my answer is still the same, but I didn't mean to hurt your feelings about it.
Yeah, that's
I
good
should
that
have,
you
you know.
know that you know how to apologize. That's good because they'll remember that. And you're teaching your daughters to, to be, I guess to be like, like to be a good role model is to be able to to be able to know how to apologize and be humble. That's what you're teaching them. So when
Yeah.
they're,
Yeah,
maybe
to
when they're
admit
in their
you're
30s or
wrong.
40s, you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not above mistakes. And
Yeah.
um, I think that also helps because it's not like I'm authoritative all the time. Like, you do what I say, and I'm the mom. You know what I mean? I do want them to do what I say, and I am the mom. And sometimes I like to say, I'm the madre. I like to say that I'm the madre. They kind of laugh at, we kind of say that kind of funny, but
That's that's
um,
funny.
yeah, they
Well,
know what I say
yeah.
goes, but I don't want to be, like unfeeling about it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, you know what, folks? You heard it here. My co host tonight, Maria Callenbach, and me, of course, Mary. We, I'm going to actually say good night, Maria, because we've been here for like an hour and 40, but this is
Are
good
you kidding me?
conversation.
I can't see from here because of well, Mary,
But
I'm
this is
sorry.
good conversation, for
Yeah.
some of the folks out there, some of the women who's like have this kind, who have this kind of problems or issues, right? And they don't
Hmm.
know how to go about it or
Yeah.
how to like deal with it or tackle with it. We've talked about it. Yeah. So anything you want to like say before we go?
Oh man. No, I think I've said it all. Probably I've said too much.
Well, we're sharing ideas, and it's good to have conversations like this, folks. You know what I mean? This is only going to empower women out there, like
Hmm.
knowing that, hey, you're not alone. There are other
Hmm.
women out there like Mary and Maria who goes
Hmm.
through the struggle of
Yeah.
raising kids and making conscious choices, for
Right.
us and for our kids, right? So don't
Right.
forget to follow. I'm going to say good night here
Good
at
night,
Mary
Mary.
Unapologetic.